Ruben, what do you have to say about the Christian genocide going on? I mean, specifically for now in Nigeria, because
Mm.
they got a lot of Christians that were massacred in churches, as well as the word in China cut across Pakistan and other countries. What do you have to say about Christian genocide?
Okay, God knows about it. It's the first and foremost thing to say. What I want to do, by now you would have realised that I go straight to the scriptures
Yeah.
as my first port of call. And where I want to go is the letters to the churches at the beginning of Revelation. There are 7 churches in John's care in the area, and he writes to each of them a little letter criticising them and addressing things that are going wrong in them. But what's interesting for us is those letters to the 7 churches aren't just for the 7 churches, but each of them is relevant to the problems that the church continues to suffer from throughout the generations. You will find the same problems raising their heads in different ways, and also the same successes, because some of these churches are praised to the rafters for how they're holding on to Jesus in the midst of it. And in more than one place in these letters, these churches are being persecuted. And Jesus has a message for each of these churches. These are the words of him, he says to Smyrna, who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again. In other words, Jesus has the first word about us and who we are, but he also has the last word about our future and our doom. He's also the one who understands what it is to die, but he's also the one who has come to life again. So each of us are going to have to face death, but each of us who have Jesus know that we will also be raised again. So he's starting out by unpacking the hope that we have in Jesus. Whatever the world might throw at us, he's the one who defines it all, and he's the one who holds us in the midst of it. He says, I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know the slander of those who say that they are religious and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Don't be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you'll suffer persecution for a period. Be faithful, even to the point of death. I will give you a crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. From the very beginning of the church's life, the church has suffered violence for the sake of Jesus Christ. Remember Saul and his killing of the church before he experiences Jesus for himself. Right at the beginning, there is this persecution and this scattering of the church. You go through church history and you find after wave of persecution of Christians, primarily because Christians would not bow the knee to idols. They would not say to something that is not true, they would not say, I am going to worship you. We're not going to bow down to that, and we're not going to bow down to any religion that tries to force us and kill us to make us their followers. That is not a religion of the one God that you find in the scriptures. So you equally have problems from authorities who want to have ultimate power over us. And what you find is that those authorities will actually attack the church because the church gives people an authority above the rulers, and they know it. So the Chinese Communist Party persecutes Christians because they don't want them to have an authority that is higher than them. North Korea hates Christians. It's really hard to be a Christian in North Korea. There are some, but it's mighty difficult. And throughout the world, people are trying to say, either for religious reasons or for power reasons, we don't want you Christians. Down with you. You know what? The long term is that those who die in Christ are received by Christ and held by him. And for those of us who remain, we find that, well, there's a phrase from the early church: the church grows out of the blood of the martyrs. That actually the church blossoms sometimes in persecution. I could almost wish that persecution would come to this country. We've got so used to having Christianity just sitting around in the background, not challenging people. And, maybe there needs to be something to shake us all up. Let me just give you one story from missiology to give you some hope. In 1948, Chairman Mao took over in China. And at that time, the Christian church was really the missionaries had been in there for about 70 or 80 years, and they only had a church in a country as big as that of a few thousand. That's all the church was. It was struggling anyway to make an impact. And missionaries were very, very fearful when they had to leave because of Chairman Mao and everything that happened through his reign through into the 70s. Then in the 70s, the bamboo curtain was raised, and for the first time people were able to revisit China. Try and speculate how many Christians were left. What do you think? Hundreds? Tens? Maybe the same number as when they left, thousands. Millions. The church, under the pressure and the persecution of Chairman Mao, had blossomed from a few frail and fragile 1,000 or so Christians to millions in those 30 years of persecution. Isn't that amazing? It isn't great that would happen. And that's reproducibly what has happened with persecution over the years. As a result of it, the church has grown and strengthened. So my heart bleeds for those who are suffering. Persecution is never something that is nice. It can never be nice. But all I know is that God has his hands under you, holding you in the midst of it. And he will be with you to the uttermost. Stand firm for your Jesus, because he is the only one who has an answer. And these people who are persecuting you, they are monsters. They think they're doing good and they're doing evil. That's the definition of it, isn't it? Show the love and the grace of God. Live Jesus to the uttermost, even to the end. You will receive the crown of life.